Middle is a desktop application that simplifies musical expression. As long as the application has focus, which is important, you can just type on your computer keyboard and you'll get sound. So now you can see on the piano display at the bottom of the middle screen, middle window, whenever I play something, either a chord or a melody note, you can see the corresponding output on an 88 note grand piano. Right now, for the sake of demonstration, I've already done something a little advanced. I've hooked up as an output a virtual MIDI port. So if you go to settings, you can see that my QWERTY controller, you can see that in the MIDI in, is connected to the MIDI out IAC bus, which is a virtual bus, and that'll be explained in another video. But basically, it can route your MIDI messages out to receiving applications such as a digital audio workstation like Ableton Live Lite or Live. Let's go back to some scales. So we're on the Scales tab now. Right now you can see, if I explain in just a little bit first, we have a chords table and a melody table. And so the chords table, I guess you can assume that it will control all the numbers that you're playing. And the melody table will control all the letters that you're playing on your QWERTY keyboard. And if you look here, you have a locking mechanism for each table. So now I'm on Ionian major, so you can see that that's a 7-note scale. And there's a locking feature for each table. So if I lock this Ionian major scale, we're going to see in the table below all subscales that contain notes that are in that superscale, Ionian major. So you're going to see scales that are either 7 or fewer notes. So let's see how that Ionian major goes together with corresponding subscales. Now this is Japan, Ritsu, Japan. Ragadesh. Let's try a Scottish Lydian hexatonic, so that's a 6-note scale. So now let's see another use case. Let's say you just stumbled upon this Lydian hexatonic scale that you like for your melody, and you want to know what chords are going to work with that scale. So you just lock the melodies table. And then now I'm going to get all superscales. So scales that all contain at least this subscale. So then we're going to see scales that are either 6 notes or greater in size. So now we have our Lydian hexatonic, and look, it actually works with Ionian major, which is not really a surprise because that's what we started with in the first example. But let's say we want to use a greater scale here. Major bebop. Let's see what kind of chords we get with that. C major. D dim. That's not registered. F dim. Not bad. So in the Scales tab, we learned how to mix and match various chord scales with melody scales via the 2 tables here, and using the locking feature for each table, so you can generate superscales and subscales. Now we're going to see how to create your own presets. And it's pretty easy. All you have to do is select your... Here, I'm going to unlock that. So you have both selections here. Major bebop for your chord scale, Lydian hexatonic for your melody scale. All you have to do is move to the presets tab and say add. So it's going to show you all your current selections, and this is going to actually take attributes from the settings tab as well, such as chord pattern type, scale key, bass channel, chord channel, melody channel. But most importantly, it has your black scale ID and your white scale ID. So those are coming from the 2 tables, and the 2 tables in scales, in the Scales tab. So new preset name. So I'm just going to call this middle demo bebop. Okay. And if it's too far down the list, I'm just going to search for it. And there it is, middle demo bebop. Right now it's set up to QWERTY, but now we can just go to a MIDI in, another MIDI in, and find Alesis Q88. You have to really make sure that your MIDI keyboard controller is plugged in first before launching Middle. Otherwise, Middle will not detect it. That's a small shortcoming. And here we go. We got Alesis Q88 hooked in on MIDI in. And we're going to connect it to the IAC bus, which is the virtual port that's going to route the MIDI messages into Ableton Live Lite in our example here. To do that, you'd probably want to route it with a virtual MIDI port. So all the outgoing messages, MIDI messages, are going to music applications such as Ableton Live or Logic or Fruity Loops, something like that. So you can see that I'm playing similarly to the QWERTY controller. I'm playing chords, and scale notes for the melody, and in the QWERTY controller it was the numbers for the chords and the letters for the melody. On the MIDI keyboard controller it's very similar. For the chords it's the black notes. And for the melody it's the white notes. Now I'm going to show middle in its full glory. So that's using the MIDI channel assignment in the settings tab. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a bass, the bass coming from the lowest note of the chord that you're playing. That's going to be set to channel 1. The chords channel, which is the rest of the chord notes that you're playing, is going to be set to channel 2. The melody, which is the white note or the letter on the QWERTY keyboard that you're playing, to channel 3. Now in your DAW, I'm using Ableton Live Lite. I have 3 instrument tracks, each with their own instrument, and I'm going to set it up to receive the virtual port that I have outgoing from middle, IAC bus 1 for each of them. But the little subtle change that I'm going to do is receive the channel that I'm outputting for each corresponding part. So the bass, the chord, and the melody. So channel 1, this one's channel 2 for the chord, this one's channel 3 for the melody. Now it should work, yeah. So you heard the bass, and you heard the piano, and you heard that squealy kind of melody melody sound. So those are all being triggered by the one MIDI keyboard controller.